Okay. So, loving having better system communication. Really fucking loving being allowed to like feel what other parts need and feel. Absolutely want this to continue. Also, really grateful for any patience afforded to me while I learn, because I see that like the more communication we build and the more awareness we have of needs and wants of various parts, the harder it's going to be to balance all of those needs and desires without one person's needs offsetting another's. Like, say there are parts of us that need makeup at the minute to feel like we recognise ourselves, and there are parts of us who are really triggered by makeup. At the minute, I'm very, very grateful because it's like definitely a compromise between many parts at the minute, which I don't know if I can actually get it on camera here because it's blindingly sunny out. But we've compromised with like a little bit of makeup, light makeup, and we just kind of had to feel as we went and like see which, like if it felt like too much for one side, we'd wipe a bit off, and if it felt like too little for the other side, we'd like try and find a way we could add it without it giving the wrong look for other parts. So it's like all a bit like that, and it's all very like kind of work as we go, feel our way. It's a lot of very, very intensive listening and like feeling and pausing to listen. Like especially the pausing to listen, not just go with blinkers on like and assume everything's fine because I feel like it's fine. Because sometimes all parts of me can be in agreement about something, and I can be like, well, this is clearly feels unanimously fine. I really want to do this. But just because I literally 100% feel like I really want something doesn't mean other people in here that I am less connected to aren't feeling like they really don't want it. So even when I feel sure, still stopping to reach inside and check as deep in, as broadly as I can with communication, if something's okay for everyone. And not being scared to do that, that's something to work on, because sometimes it's like it's so hard to get to a almost unanimous decision where something is okay as an option that it can be really scary to ask inside if it's really okay for everyone, because there's a lot of us and I don't want to exclude anybody or like bypass anybody's boundaries. I don't want to do anything that's not okay for anyone, and then being like, well, fuck, there's a lot of us, this is almost definitely bound to not be okay for somebody. And it's almost like scary to ask to know when you're like, I don't know what compromise I'm going to take if people aren't okay with this. So that's stuff I need to work on. So like before, like we had one of these before vlogging, there were parts of us who were like really didn't want to switch on the camera and like very averse backing off feeling, and like really didn't want to have that to deal with. And there were parts, I think especially of me, who have learnt that I can express what's concerning me vlogging and use it to change how we feel, and like it lightens the load a bit as long as I'm doing it carefully, because like it's not like it isn't difficult, because it's like I gotta be very aware when I'm vlogging. I gotta like be in touch with what I'm saying and how I feel and how we feel about what I'm saying. Kind of like hear myself speaking as I go, so that I can change course if needed. I've got to be really honest with myself, like painfully, uncomfortably honest with myself for parts of me that haven't like gotten used to being so. And it can be really scary. It can feel like I'm on fire for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, a sudden wave of calm or feeling better, or suddenly stuff looks a bit clearer, and then I understand a bit better, and so I feel less overwhelmed. But it's like it's this is why people must say trust the process, because when I'm just going by what feels right from one action to the next, I can't see where I'm going to end up or like where I'm going, and I do just have to have a lot of trust and confidence that going off what is really genuinely happening for me and what actually feels right is going to lead me somewhere that is helpful, and like abandon all ideas for how it should look or what I think it looks like or like if I think it makes sense or anything. And I've got to just have complete faith that if I clearly and authentically communicate what's really going on in my reality, it will build a picture and follow steps to some improvement, because it does. But it's like every single time I'm not thinking like, I don't know, I'm only just coming to the stage where I'm like watching our videos back and going, no, this is definitely helping. This is definitely not making us worse. Like, every time I revisit a vlog I recorded, journal through it, and then vlog about that, there is progression. I don't even have to vlog about it a second time sometimes, but it's just like going over the vlogs and journaling and working out what comes up is definitely making it then easier to watch the vlog again, where maybe my nervous system would get dysregulated the first time I watched it and I'd have to spend hours calming down. It's maybe like quicker to calm down the next time, and then to the point where now I can watch vlogs that I went into panic attacks from, and I just feel like fucking heartbreak and grief for the things we've been through, and I feel safe and experience them as emotions, not as like nervous system dysregulation. So there is a definite process that I have somehow stumbled along that helps us, and I just kind of can see that now, and I'm like starting to have some faith in that. So I gotta just keep taking blind leaps of faith on myself as I go. There's a lot that goes on at once, because like none of these things are isolated, they're all kind of there together on the playing field. Sometimes it feels like you get like racing thoughts and insecurities and anxieties and intrusive thoughts and like trauma-born fears, I guess, activated, and it feels like a serious fucking quick time event. Like I've got to know the right thing that the brain needs to hear, that the nervous system needs to hear and maybe feel and do for each one perfectly, like at a time, to tone it down. Because if I have one hit me and I don't respond to that one immediately well enough to tread water, then the next, it'll snowball while another one like tangents off from it, and you can just end up like catastrophizing in spirals with like panic attack things. So it's like knowing exactly what response to take, both for the like when to reassure for a thought and then when to ground into the body, and like there's a lot of quick time events all on top of each other, all kind of happening within the same sphere and all on many different levels, working out like when it's an emotional flashback and from which part, and then remembering, even though I can isolate which part it's from, so then I can go, okay, this time frame is likely from this event, or like this sort of rough area of trauma, because sometimes it's so blurred together, you don't know the event, but you do know like the rough topic that will be being triggered, and then it makes it easier to work out what that part might need to feel reassured, to feel safe, but also while devoting compassion and understanding and like reaching out to that specific part, it's important to keep it open and welcoming feeling as like a whole, rather than like putting too much gap and distinction between me and that part of me. So it's like everything's a constant juggling act, and I kind of have to do it all perfectly to not get overwhelmed. I imagine that'll get easier as I go. It's not like I have a choice about what comes up and when I get triggered and what. It's just that this many parts all together, I have a lot of fucking triggers, because I'm now starting to, I guess, have access to a lot of trauma. And then also, parts of me in this fusion were always protected from the trauma, so I have defenses going off like denial and like this sort of disconnection thing that happens in post parts of me, or I like can't, I don't know if it's connected to the denial, but it's like really fucks up the internal communication sometimes. So there's like a lot of barriers to work through to be able to experience the symptoms, and then I got to know how to support and regulate us through the symptoms without disowning the symptoms and escaping from them, as would be some parts of me's usual go-to. And it's actually a very nice mix. It's much less lonely. It's like, yeah, I'm doing something all the time, and it is like a million quick time events all at once, but also there's something that I can constantly do, and I can build skills in dealing with each trigger, I guess, and I'm learning to map our triggers and understand like more how to avoid them in places, and it's it feels more like kind of wholesome and whole and together. I don't feel as helpless or as swallowed by the things that we're experiencing. I feel more like just kind of exhausted from constantly like responding and reacting and like knowing which thing to apply when. It's really exhausting, but also we're doing really fucking well. I think that it might slow down as we go, like, because at the minute, at first there's kind of no break, because when we get it right and we feel safety, our brain signals lack of safety, because that's so unfamiliar, especially to like trauma holding parts of me, parts of us. So that can dysregulate us, and that can take a while to like acclimatize to. So it's like our bar all over the place is changing for what's familiar, and there kind of feels like there's no pockets of air from anywhere in our life while that's happening, which is probably why there's like this sped up feeling, and like everything is so fast and so often and like 1 minute to the next. But I do imagine that's going to change as we go, and as we get more familiar with things, then I think we'll develop more sort of space to breathe, and I think it's starting to happen already. Like we did such a fucking amazing job calming down and regulating with a mix of like, I guess, self-soothing from art and watching comfort shows and just like sitting still and holding each other and reassuring each other and playing games and doing slow outside grounding tactics all the way through them, like the grounding through the senses, and like knowing which thing to use when and doing it is starting to feel like, okay, there are pockets of air now, there are places where I can breathe. It's like there is relief, and the more I experience dysregulation and then us repairing it and finding soothing and comfort after, the less afraid I seem to feel of being dysregulated. So like the less world-ending things that could trigger me start to look, I guess. And I still feel like, I don't know, I feel like terror in my gut when I think about triggers. Just, it hits me. It's like, I feel like the nervous system branded response is just there. And that might take a long time to rebrand over. But then my initial, that'll happen and I'll feel this, I don't want to. But then immediately I'll be like, okay, but think about like all these times that we've calmed and soothed each other and felt better because of things we have done after being triggered. So I'm like, it doesn't feel unmanageable, you know, even though the initial response is still like that dark, sickly terror that maybe we're there for a while, but it doesn't feel like that doesn't linger alone anymore. It's like balanced by feelings of capability and support. Okay. So yeah, going back, like it can be hard to know what's okay when without upsetting anybody. And like I was like, I really want to vlog, and I think it'll make us feel better because my history of using it has shown that if I manage to express what's going on for me, it feels a bit like output. It's like I've got it out of my brain now, and I can kind of put a pin in it, let it go. I can breathe a bit more. I can understand it better. Less, less uncertainty means like it's less terrifyingly unknown, which is always good when you got trauma. So I feel more capable, I guess, is an effect of vlogging, because I see myself and what's going on clearer from expressing it. And I kind of thought that would be the case today while feeling overwhelmed and shit. But other parts really didn't want to vlog, and it really is very new to us, and that's totally fair, and nobody has to do anything they don't want to do, which is where it gets really complicated, because I'm like, well, I don't want to make you do something you don't want to do, and also we're both going, oh fuck, this is overwhelming, and like, we need to do something about it, and I feel like I've got to make the right snap judgment call to go, like, I said absolutely we won't, I switched the camera off at one point and was like, absolutely, if you don't feel comfortable on camera, we'll always go with providing safety to people that don't feel safe first. So if the camera feels like a threat, we absolutely will not switch it on. That's, that's a given. But they were really, really brave and got kind of curious. And even though they definitely felt very overwhelmed by the idea of it and very like jaggedly like about it, they kind of wanted to see why I felt so sure, I guess, that it would be better, not worse. So they were like, can switch it on, and insisted through my going, are you sure? You like, there was social pressure, no emotional pressure, no subconscious feeling like you can't say no. Like, probably arguably check a little too much that it's enthusiastic consent, but we would. And they insisted, and were like, I'm not going to feel comfortable. You're not going to get me to, I'm not going to feel like, oh yeah, I definitely do this and it's fine, because it's new and I'm unsure, but like my conscious choice is for you to just put it on and we'll see. And I was like, okay, well, we can switch it off at any point. And they are relatively close to the front still, and we do feel better. And they feel a little bit calmer too, which is really, really, really cool. It makes me very, very fucking proud and happy. That's really impressive. I know it was unknown and scary, and I think you're fucking awesome for trying it. And I'm really glad it helped, because there was no guarantee it would. It could have been too much and just been overwhelming. I think that you had to be able to, not snowball into everything, and there was some level of keeping yourself calm and not expecting the outcome that you felt there too. Like, you gave it a chance. You made yourself be in a place where it was possible you could have a different experience than the one you were afraid of, and that's really fucking impressive work. Okay.